Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to Korea, How to Contain Kim Jong-un and Strengthen Democracy on the Korean Peninsula. My name is Terry Martin. I'm a TV news anchor based here in Berlin, and it's my great privilege to be moderating this session today. The topic that we're dealing with is how to deal with the situation on the Korean Peninsula, and it remains one of the world's most complex geopolitical challenges. In the north, we have a hereditary dictatorship that's been developing nuclear weapons and threatening not only its neighbors, but other countries further afield. So there's that large security aspect. It's a repressive, isolationist regime. Its policies have brought great suffering upon its own people, we must keep in mind. And it also stands accused of massive human rights abuses. It's accused of mass cyber disinformation campaigns that are affecting countries all over the world. Democratic countries seeking to engage with North Korea have their work cut out for them, obviously. Just trying to establish any contact is already difficult, but trying to balance deterrence, diplomacy, and democracy building. How do you do that? These are huge questions, and we're not obviously going to solve them all here today, but we're going to get insights into this really difficult, complex problem from multiple perspectives, different perspectives that I think will help us get a better picture of what the challenges are and what opportunities there might be for making progress and engaging North Korea, because we're at a very tense geopolitical moment, and we've got to think about how to proceed forward in a constructive way that's going to be to the benefit of all. So we have an exceptional panel of experts, as it were, to navigate this complex landscape. I'll introduce them briefly, and then we'll have a little chat up here, and then we'll get questions from you, because I would like this to be an interactive session, and that you are here at all indicates you obviously have an interest in this topic. So first of all, in the center here, we have Cindy and Fred Warmbier, whom we saw in the film there. They're the parents of Otto Warmbier, and they are human rights activists, among other things. Cindy and Fred have been outspoken advocates for justice following the tragic detention of their son in North Korea and subsequent death. They'll share their perspectives on North Korea's human rights violations and the importance of holding the regime accountable, and they've done that successfully already in different ways. Also with us is Lothar Harings. He's an attorney and managing director of, I'm not sure how to pronounce this, Katwijk? Katwijk, okay. Katwijk Rechtsanwaltsgesellschaft just means attorneys, I guess. Yeah. He specializes in, Dr. Harings, specializes in international sanctions law and compliance. So sanctions is his specialty, providing insights into the effectiveness and challenges of using economic measures to constrain North Korea. But he's also been working with the Warmbiers, and we'll hear some about that. Also with us, Ulrich Larsen, there at the far end. We also saw him in the film, former chef turned whistleblower in a way, known for his undercover work, infiltrating North Korea. His experience offers a rare glimpse inside the regime's operations and the mechanisms through which it circumvents sanctions. And finally, right next to me here is Teng Biao. He's a Chinese human rights lawyer, legal scholar, specializing in transitional justice. He's long advocated for democracy, rule of law, and human rights in China and beyond. I know that this has landed you in jail a couple of times in China for this. His expertise is going to offer really valuable insights, I think, into the legal and ethical dimensions of engaging with authoritarian regimes. Now, we're just going to, as I say, start off with a few statements here on stage. Officially in the program, we have Teng Biao delivering a keynote. He's just going to make some remarks about his insights. North Korea is not his specialty. He pointed out to me, which I understand, it's not mine either, for that matter. I'm a generalist as an international news anchor. But we're going to get some insights into what's your reflections on this big challenge that we've opened up here.
Sure, thank you very much. I'm no expert on North Korea. I've never written about North Korea, but I'm a human rights lawyer and dissident from China, And so we had a conversation this morning. My personal experience and the thought about Chinese politics and international relations might be important, may send an important message to understand North Korea, and not only the human rights situation and political system in North Korea, but also how the world, how the free world can react to the regime, how we can have an effective policy regarding North Korea. So think about like a centralized one-party rule, the Orwellian-style surveillance, the control over media and organizations, and strong leadership cult, the cult of personality, and persecution of tens of thousands of dissidents and labor camps, and pervasive torture and arbitrary detention. So you may think I'm talking about North Korea, DPRK, but I'm talking about PRC, the People's Republic of China. And so China matters very much here, also because not only because the similarities between the two countries, but also because without China's support, North Korea won't survive for another week. So I listened to a podcast, and this is exactly what the North Korean defectors said. So without the Chinese Communist Party's support in many different ways, the Kim regime would not last long. I was born in China, Jilin province, which has a long border with North Korea. And before I went to the university, I was totally brainwashed. You know that the brainwashing is kind of necessity in totalitarian, authoritarian regimes. And then I went to a university, Peking University, which was the #1 university in China. And I got the opportunity to read some banned books and watch some banned documentaries, and then I got enlightened. I studied law in Peking University, and I realized the importance of freedom, democracy, and rule of law, and I decided to promote human rights and democracy in China. And then I became a human rights lawyer in 2003 when I also became a professor in teaching law and constitution in that university. And then I promoted, together with some other human rights lawyers and activists, promoted the human rights movement in China. And so our idea is to use the constitution and the legal system to defend people's rights and freedom. And then because of I wrote a lot of articles to criticize the Chinese Communist Party. And because of my human rights work, I was first warned by my university, and then I put under house arrest from time to time. And I was disbarred, I was banned from teaching, I was fired by the university, and I was kidnapped by Chinese secret police for 3 times and disappeared and detained. And so when I was kidnapped, I was like pushed into a car, and they put a hood on my eyes, and I didn't know where I was detained. And I was put under an extreme form of solitary confinement for 70 days, and I was not allowed to read, to write, to do anything. So and I was beaten brutally, and I was forced to wear a handcuff and forced to sit down on the floor facing the wall, and from 6 p.m. to midnight, 12 o'clock. So the hardest part is not the physical torture, but the mental torture, the extreme, the solitary confinement and the intimidation and the information deprivation. So it's very, very hard. And then so that's, I think, my experience is not in the same level as political prisoners in North Korea, but North Korea learned a lot from China, from especially Mao Zedong era. Now the Chinese President Xi Jinping adopted a lot of policies in Mao Zedong's era, and the surveillance. So I coined the term high-tech totalitarianism to describe how the Chinese Communist Party utilized their high-level surveillance technologies to control the society and the individuals. So it's really unprecedented totalitarianism, and then I want to make a point that without China's substantial support, the Kim Jong-un regime will not survive. So the support includes economic, financial, military, technology, and all these kind of economic support. China was the single biggest trade partner of North Korea, and accounting for more than 90% of its foreign trade, and bypassing the international sanctions, and China helps North Korea obtain foreign currency through third-party countries or underground financial networks, allowing North Korea laborers to work illegally in China. And the CCP's support ensure that North Korea regime can survive, and providing key political and diplomatic support to North Korea, in not only in the UN Security Council, but in all those kind of international platforms. And China blocks human rights investigations and international condemnation. And China strictly controls the North Korean border to prevent North Korean refugees from fleeing to the third country. And yes, yeah, I'll wrap up soon. So North Korean who flee to China forcibly repatriated and forced imprisonment or even sometimes execution. Like weapons, military trainings, and so all those kind of support is crucial to the Korean regime, and I think it's very difficult. We'll talk about sanction and other international pressure. I think it's very, very difficult to give pressure to North Korea because it's very much isolated from the free world. But the international community, especially the democratic countries, could give pressure to China and other countries who can impact North Korea. And I think that would be an effective way to change North Korea.
Yeah. Thank you very much. That's an extremely important point when we look for leverage in how to deal with North Korea, to engage with North Korea. The recognition of its close cooperation with China, or China's role in that even if we can't engage diplomatically or otherwise very well with South with North Korea, China may be a way of accessing that. Now, thank you very much for illuminating that, and also for sharing with us the excruciating details of your detention and torture. Very, very moving. Now, because each person on this panel has a very different story to tell about their experiences from different perspectives, I would really like to give everyone an opportunity to just share that very briefly before we pick up the thematic discussion. So perhaps we should just proceed along the line. Mr. and Mrs. Warmbier, if you would like to.
Well, look how many people are in this room. And they're mainly young people. Nobody gives a shit about North Korea, and can you blame them? It is a hellhole. And what I just saw is so awful. When I see Otto before and after, it just sets me off, what they did to him for no reason. But on the positive side, here I am, and there are a few people here that care. And a lot of time has passed, and I really appreciate you all still for caring. Fred and I are not going to stop trying.
To see Otto in that picture is really tough and bad, but that's not what we did. That's what happened to us. This is what we did. We made a commitment to do something about this, to not let this stand. So we hired a law firm immediately. We realized we had no recourse against North Korea unless we put them on a state sponsor of terror list in our country. So we lobbied Congress, and that's what the call of the film we watched. We developed tools. The Crane's Call. So they were frustrated with the inability to make to go after these criminals in Russia. We had the same problem in the United States against North Korea. And this is where our journey begins. It doesn't end with Otto. It began then. So we were fortunate. We had a lot of support. Cindy and I lobbied Congress for almost a year to put North Korea on a state sponsor of terror list. Then we sued North Korea, and we won a judgment, and it was very painful. But that gave us tools, and then we were able to go out and with the help of others, we confiscated a ship of theirs, and so it was the Wise Honest, and that was a big rust bucket ship that we had no business wanting, so we gave it away. But we worked with the Southern District of New York in America, and we had rights to the ship because we have a judgment against them. So that's one part of our journey. We then we met Lothar. Between all this, well, the next step was meeting Lothar and realizing Germany has some real problems with North Korea. The German people are very nice and risk averse, and North Korea has a hostel here called the Berlin City Hostel. And it was run by North Koreans, which is against the Geneva Convention. It's against the law in Germany. They did this for many, many years, and they were making millions of dollars off this that they obviously would funnel to North Korea, and who knows what they did with the money. We hired Lothar and his law firm, and we worked for almost a year. We engaged the American Embassy in Germany. We went to the European Parliament. We met the German Parliament, I think, and some really great, Christina Barley. Yeah, and we met a lot of really great politicians in Germany. And we were able to, with our help, his help, the German government, the American embassy, that hostel is now closed. It's got a fence around it. It's really a great accomplishment. And so then in our country, we've had bills, the Banking Restrictions Involving North Korea Act. That was passed in our son's name. We've done many of these efforts. Are they helping? Are they making a difference? Well, you keep doing them until they do make a difference. So I can't tell you. I think they're certainly helping us. and we're not going to stop. And what I'm encouraged here when I saw the movie was, and I felt the frustration of Hillary Clinton when she said, nobody will watch it. Well, there's no pathways in Germany to actually hold the Russians accountable for what they did. So you need to build pathways so that this can happen, which is what we did in the US. And now we have to be smart enough to find North Korean assets, which we have, and we do. And so it's a lifetime effort. And that's really what Cindy and I have done. It wasn't the end with Otto. It was tragic, and we miss him dearly. We have two beautiful kids. We have a great life. It was the beginning of what we're doing now and what we continue to do. And I'm really excited about the opportunities in Germany, and I would love to see some changes there. And I'll pass it over to Lothar, unless my beautiful wife wants to talk a little more.
You know, it's funny. As much time passes, when I see it, the anger comes out. When I don't see it, I'm okay. And it's like it happened yesterday. I can't look at that. I usually won't look at that. I kind of knew it was coming up. But let me tell you something. This is what I want you all to know. Otto was an incredible kid. And he was a threat to North Korea because he was good looking, American, happy, and he knew nothing but success in his life. And that just set them off. 3 days later, after they kept him hostage, they set off nuclear. Our Congress did sanctions. It's very similar to what governments do. They know that there's a hostage, yet they're going to react in a way that might magnify the problem. We were told to be quiet. We were told he's going to come home, just be patient. So my message always to people in similar situations is not, and I'm going to say this, not to trust your government, even a democracy, because they have their self-interest and it may not match your interests. So I was very naive thinking Otto would be safe because he's an American. I tell people now, you have a target on your back if you're an American. I don't know if it's similar to Europeans, but other countries love to show their power by taking Americans hostage. So that's what I learned. That's what I want to share with you all you adventurous young people. Keep your adventures safe. Because you have a lot of people that care about you. On to Lothar.
Thank you very much.
What I learned from my clients actually is that you need to speak out against injustice. So we Germans, we sometimes tend to be very diplomatic. And I think there is a need for diplomacy, but sometimes there is a need to address injustice. And that's what I learned. When I met Cindy and Fred, I think in 2019 we met the first time, and you told me the story of that hostel. I wasn't aware of it. And then, as a good lawyer does, I looked into the regulations and the law, and I saw, well, this is illegal. It cannot be. North Korea has been sanctioned since 2017, and it was prohibited for them to use their diplomatic property, their diplomatic real estate, for any other than diplomatic purposes. And nevertheless, there was the city hostel on the ground. And then we digged a bit and we learned, and sorry, Fred, I do not really like to correct you, but they were not operating it themselves. They lent it to a German company, to a GmbH, and they got rent from this GmbH. And then I thought, okay, that's a very clear-cut case. We write a letter and we ask them to shut it down because it's illegal. And you would have expected that the government, the authorities, that they say, thank you for this, for your statement. Of course, we comply with this and it will be shut down. What we observed was the opposite. We saw that nobody felt responsible at first. So there was the district of Berlin, District Mitte, who was competent for internal things, and they said, oh no, that's something what has to do with foreign affairs, so that's the Foreign Office has to react on this. But the Foreign Office has no competence to act to shut down a business in Germany. So they asked the Ministry of Economics, who is responsible in Germany for executing sanctions, for advising on sanctions. They said, no, we cannot do something. That is work which has to be done within the German states, the Länder. It's their responsibility. And then we found out that the district of Berlin, District Mitte, had reacted. 1 year after the regulation entered into force, they published or they sent a shutdown order to the operator of the hostel, so they were not acting against North Korea, but against the operator of the hostel, and said, you have to shut down the hostel, you are not allowed to pay any rent to North Korea. But they made a big mistake. They did not give this order immediate effect. So what did the hostel operator do? They appealed against this decision, and that means until the court proceedings went on, the hostel could still be operated, and they could gain money out of this. So, and then we said to the district, you have to react, you have to do this with immediate effect. We sent a letter, we said, you are obliged by European law to do this with immediate effect, because this is a blatant violation of European law, and we are talking about matters of world peace, of human rights, and on the other side the interest is a mere commercial interest. So there is no discretion, you have to act, to react. And instead of being thankful, grateful to us, they said, no, you're wrong. We are not doing this. And at that time, then we went to all the ministries, to the chancellor, to the office of the chancellor, and they were all supportive then. They said, yes, you are right, and we are trying to force the district, but we cannot do anything. So, and this was something I didn't expect. I thought Germany is a country where sanctions are implemented, where they are executed, and it was really poor knowledge. It was an administrative mistake. But instead of thanking us for giving the hint how to react, they opposed us. And then finally, it came to an oral hearing before the administrative court, and the administrative court ruled against the operator of the hostel, and then within 2 months it was shut down.
Wow, fascinating. I live in Germany, and I understand a little bit how laws work and how politics works too, but I've never heard a story quite like that one. That's absolutely fascinating. But
Can I say one thing?
Sure.
But in all of this, as hard as this was, there are other illegal operations, and one of the reasons Fred and I came here was that even though it took that much work, Berlin did something. There are illegal activities. We know the countries. Either we're too afraid to go there. We went to Switzerland. They basically told us, and we know Kim has assets there, and they basically told us, we were at the American embassy, they're not going to let us do anything.
You went to school there.
Yes,
Yeah.
correct.
And if sorry.
Oh, no, that's fine. I'm just saying that Berlin still acted appropriately. I have great feelings for Germany. They did help me. It took a lot. But because of Lothar and his knowledge, we stuck it out, and his determination, and it wasn't for money, it was for the cause.
Well, I think it was for money.
Thank you, Fred.
Fascinating insights. The three of you are having an impact on dealing with North Korea, a real, genuine impact, which is heartening. They're excellent stories. We're now getting to Ulrich, who's going to give us insights.
Just to follow up
Go
on
ahead.
Cindy about Switzerland. I went to Switzerland 2 years ago with a German TV crew, and we were tracking down the school where Kim Jong-un was attending, and we have this fantastic meeting with the principal telling us, well, we got the students from great CEOs all around the world. And so I asked him, how many years just Kim Jong-un went there to the school? Oh, sorry, we don't talk about our students. That's really much shows how Switzerland's reacting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's an
Just
insight.
to
Okay,
side story.
Switzerland is a special case. Anyway, Ulrich, why don't you tell us about your experience in North Korea, because not very many people have had the opportunity to go there at all, much less be there undercover and have seen things that those who arrive as a tourist or a diplomat would not get to see. So please share us your insights on how that's affected you later.
Yeah, well, just to tell, I spent 10 years undercover dealing with North Koreans, and it actually started about, I found a Danish Friendship Association supporting North Korea, and that way in led me to be at the highest table in North Korea, talking about drugs and weapons and how to sell around the world, simply doing the sanction busting, because in my mind North Korea is an evil enterprise who is bankrupt and now stealing to just survive. So that's why they unite with Russia, and they have the friendship with China, because China needs North Korea and the opposite way. But my experience in North Korea is it's a staged country for a foreigner. My first visit was back in 2012, and it was literally so visible. When you drive down the street, people were standing on the street, waving to you, welcoming you to North Korea. And if you turn around and look out the window, they walk back again with the banners and put them nice together. And it was literally like a movie stage, and it was quite bizarre. But I met a Spaniard named Alejandro Cao de Penas. I don't know if anybody here is familiar with him. He's the president of the International Friendship Association, the KFA. And he asked me, because we are at the same age, and a lot of the people that support North Korea back then are older communists back from the Cold War days. And he was thinking, maybe this young guy, he could help me in North Korea, because Alejandro benefits from North Korea by helping to put in shady businesses. And to be quite brief, he wanted me to find an investor. So for 3 years, I was a part of the International Friendship Association, being North Korea's official delegate in Denmark, Norway, Sweden, and Finland, which actually made me possible to speak with the media in in Scandinavia to talk good about North Korea. As you know, all in here, North Korea is a paradise on earth if you ask North Koreans. They literally use propaganda in the television showing from Los Angeles. It's called the Skid Row. It's a place where a lot of drug addicted and alcoholic people has a resident or hang out, and they're saying this is how people live in America and the rest of the world. So the foreign people coming here is actually trying to get a foot inside our paradise. Yeah, it just sounds so bizarre, and it is bizarre. But I spent 3 years, and I had a film crew behind me with a director who did another documentary about North Korea named The Red Chapel. And after 3 years, it was about time to find an investor, because if I came with one the second day, it was seen quite suspicious. So we actually found a former Danish criminal drug dealer to play the role. He has the CV for being a bad guy and doing businesses, and they literally bought into that, and we got invited back to North Korea, ending up sitting in a basement, in a soundproof basement, negotiating with the president of the arms factory and from the pharmaceutical company, telling us how to produce methamphetamine. We had architecture drawings about building a factory in Africa. We will have workers shipped in from North Korea. And it was so bizarre. And we were like, is this really happening? Because it's North Korea, they never open up the doors. But they have so much belief in me. I was awarded a medal by the regime. I had the badge with the Kim Il-sung and Kim Jong-il, the foreign leaders. And that comes to my point. You cannot trust North Koreans at all, because what they literally want is the money or something back. But sitting there negotiating, some of the most bizarre thing in my life ever happens. I told Fred and Cindy and Lothar earlier today. Suddenly, like we're sitting here discussing, the president of the arms factory stands up, walk over to something like a computer, turns around with a microphone, starts singing karaoke. In the middle of the negotiations it was like, we want a break. And in my country, Denmark, if you go to a karaoke bar, it will be this song with a film behind, with maybe it's a love song. Man meets a lady and they become broken, they got married, they break up, everything ends up happy. In North Korea, it's about, every third word is about Kim Jong-il or Kim Il-sung. And the film always ends with America is destroyed from the world map. So they gave me the microphone. I say, please, Mr. Larsen, you have to sing a song. And I was like, well, I saw in the paper there was some Beatles numbers, and I said, okay, in the culture it's disrespectful not to be a part of the entertainment. So, well, let me try some Beatles, at least I won't destroy that number a lot. Music began, and they put on Celine Dion with My Heart Will Go On from the Titanic. And I was like, what the? I'm not gonna sing that, sorry, it's a beautiful song. But I had to improvise. And I started singing a children's song, which my daughter is present today as well, with a song for her when she was a little girl. And it's something where you dance and do some crazy things. And I was like, this is not good. And then the most bizarre in my life ever happened, I think. I sat down in a chair after the song. I grabbed a beer and emptied it quite fast because I need to. And then suddenly a North Korean stood just behind me, taking his arm here. And I was thinking, this is not good. And he said, I can feel this song comes from your heart. And in my mind, of course it's from my heart. It's from my daughter, and my other daughter is home. And then he just twisted a little bit more, saying, I can feel in your heart that you love our dear leader. And I was like, whoa, of course I do. But that also shows me how brainwashed the North Korean people are, because from birth they are told that Western people, American people specifically, are evil people. I went to a kindergarten from the age of 11 months until age of 5 or 6. The first thing the children sees every morning, I can't remember if it's a banner or a poster or a painting, but it's North Korean children's soldiers stabbing bayonets through the helmet of American soldiers. That's how North Korea are to the people. And one minor mistake can make, and not even a mistake, it's so brutal, it's so evil. And people always ask me, how was it to be in North Korea? And I say, well, I literally can't describe. You have to be there yourself to make your own decisions. But then again, don't go. It's an evil enterprise. It's the most evil state on earth. And it's such a small country who has such a big impact in the world. And we can't, I don't believe in democracy in North Korea. It's impossible. Dealing with the North Korean is 100% impossible, as long as it looks at the situation as it is now. So I'm literally, and the thing is, there live 25 million people in that terrible regime every day, run by a few people, and they are brainwashed to be like them who runs it. So, yeah, if I had the answer to put in democracy, I know we're going to discuss it later. My simple answer is, it's impossible.
Thank you very much. Yeah, that's a very sobering thought to end these opening statements on. We only have about 15 minutes left. You pointed out that North Korea is a small country. It has the 4th largest army, however, in the world, and its doctrine is military first, right? So
exactly.
It pours all its resources into the military, even if the people may be starving. Or anyway, it's a very, very curious thing. The question that we haven't really explored fully yet is how to, or even touched on very much, is how to affect change in North Korea, or at least, as the title of this session says, contain North Korea so that it doesn't threaten the world, because it is a security threat, serious security threat, not just because it has developed nuclear weapons, but also within the cyber world. This is a real war that's going on. You may not see it, but it's there, and it affects all sorts of things, including here in Germany, directly the servers of the parliament. Anyway, because I feel it's important that we include everyone in this room in this discussion, I would like to take some questions now from all of you here, And I would appreciate if we could try to steer the discussion towards the notion of what to do, how to deal with North Korea moving forward. The questions of sanctions, we haven't really talked about that very much. That's Lothar's specialty. Sorry, not, I believe I've, Ulrich, no, Lothar.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is my second panel today. I'm kind of going through all the names. But if we could focus on how to deal with North Korea diplomatically in security terms, and maybe also using diplomatic leverage through other countries like China, which does have leverage. So, does anyone have any remarks like heading in that direction? Yes, sir.
I mean,
You could just identify yourself quickly.
Dragoș Păsăru, I'm former chair of the Employment Committee in the European Parliament for Ministry of Labour in Romania, and I'm going to relate with my experience before 1989 in Romania with the Ceausescu regime.
Okay.
And what I can tell you is that in these kind of very strict regimes, it's kind of difficult to expect people from inside, from within, to create mutiny and so on and so forth. They are accumulating a lot of pressure, but it's very complicated for an outburst in this kind of military regimes. What you can do? Radio Free Europe. For us in Romania, that was one of the things I remember my parents in their bed, below, just to not be heard by the Securitatea, by the secret police. I mean, they were listening these kind of things. What is happening right now? I mean, the US is actually shutting down. I know that Donald Trump has actually, this particular case, been supportive of this particular situation, but right now the foreign policy that he's actually doing is not going in a good direction. So information, radio, coming up with this kind of information that can reach North Koreans. And the second thing that, it's really, really important is help people, the notable people, the leaders that may potentially do that, if they are abroad, support them, give them a voice, give them a platform, help them, not necessarily recruit, because this is not a military thing, but help them spread the messages about what's going on. I mean, these are the two things that work for Romania. I think that they were critical. Again, I don't think that there is one, secret lesson that we need to discover, but these are some of the ingredients that can actually.
Thank you very much. Yeah, it's definitely a mix. I mean, what you said echoes what we heard earlier from Ulrich about, people it's very difficult to reach them.
If I may give a brief answer to your question. In North Korea, it's been punished by death if you listen to radio from abroad. And I met a defector, a young lady back in Seoul last year. I guess she's around today 32. It's 10 years since she escaped. The reason she escaped was because she was listening to South Korean K-pop. They live close to the border of South Korea. And she feared her parents have been hearing her listening to that music. That made her defect because she was literally fearing her parents will turn her into the regime. So just also that again, it's such a hermit kingdom, and the punishment could be so hard. So, and she don't know today if her parents died because she defected or anybody else. So I would love to do radio recordings put into North Korea with a translator on, but having in mind that trying to do what called a rebellion, is that the right word? No, it's very difficult. It's impossible, yeah. But I know the story about Romania. My uncle is married to a Romanian lady, and I visit Bucharest, and especially the area of the military area and the old Sector 6. Yeah.
There are many people at this conference who have exactly that same story that you do, of having grown up or their parents having listened to this, and in effect to Voice of America or Radio Free Liberty or Radio Free Europe, and having helped to bring about change. Yeah. So, please.
My name is Lily. I'm from Taiwan, resident in the Netherlands. So I kind of understand both sides of culture, Asian culture and European culture. And I would like to second what Cindy just mentioned about naive. Because if you watch on the internet, now the picture of Kim Jong-un has been using as fancy or joke. So to make a younger generation doesn't see him as a dictator, a threat. They think that was a funny guy because he might do funny things sometime and show up on internet. So the younger generation doesn't realize that this guy is a dictator. He was born as a dictator, and he will continue to doing that, to terrorize all his people. And it's the castle, you are very difficult to break in with radio, with internet, everything as a big bandit. And that I think as a Taiwanese, the only thing is through China, because as you say, China needs North Korea, North Korea needs China. When there was something wrong for China, then they will take the North Korea and say, hey, do something crazy. So then we were like, oh, then we have to talk to China because only China could talk to North Korea. And as a Taiwanese, we are in the front line, maybe not as close as the South Korea, but then we are facing the China. And there was also the time bomb, which you don't know when the China will let it up. And maybe it's a bit selfish to say that as if we want to do something to the North Korea, maybe have to first take action to face like China is actually the supporter for North Korea. And by supporting Taiwan, which has been in front line against China for more than 70 years. But our situation now is a little bit like Ukraine. That's also why yesterday we had a panel about that. So maybe at this moment we could not do that much about North Korea directly, but tell your story, what you are sharing today, to make a younger generation know that the Kim Jong-un is not a fancy, funny figure. He is a dictator, and don't forget about that.
Thank you very much. Yeah, this complex relationship between democratic governments, North Korea, and China that's a whole topic for itself. How can that be unpicked, and how to find some, where would there be leverage points? What incentives would there be for China to alter its relationship with North Korea in any significant way? And that I've had that conversation as a news anchor many times, and it's a struggle to find encouragement in this context. We've heard encouraging stories from our panel, and parallel stories that might give us solace, but it's tough to think about the way forward. Any other observations, questions from the room to the panelists? Yes, sir.
Yeah, my name is Anchang Valerie. I'm an ICD student. I'm from Kenya, I'm based in Delhi. So I don't know if it is a speculation, but for my research, Kim Jong-un did his studies in Keystone School and Bell School in Switzerland. So if indeed he did his studies in Switzerland, I wish to know, Switzerland as a democratic society, they think to not like maybe impact his leadership, attitude or character? I mean, I wish to know, because if indeed he is studying in Switzerland, how come he's a dictator? I mean, the society not impact his life, transform his life and his way of doing things? So I don't know if it's a speculation, but that's my personal research. He's studying in Switzerland. So.
It's a legitimate question. What impact could that experience living in Switzerland, in a democratic country, have had on a dictator, right? I mean, and there are other examples of that, of how North Korean leaders appreciate Western culture, whether it's film or sports or whatever, and you wonder how does that all fit together? I mean, would anyone care to speculate about that?
I think it's not only North Korean leaders; it's dictators all over the world that had education in Europe, and then we are again talking about sanctions. So we have luxury embargoes against Russia, against Syria, that time against North Korea, because the least we can do is to prevent them from benefiting from these countries. But frankly spoken, I have no idea why they turn out to become dictators when they leave European schools.
If I may, like Xi Jinping stayed several months in the United States, and like the Chinese communist leaders after Mao Zedong, Deng Xiaoping, Jiang Zemin, Hu Jintao. So they travel all over the world, and they know what exactly the democracy looks like, and they know the value of freedom and democracy and rule of law, but they choose to be a dictator. So that's not, for the panelists, we know the power of value. I told them in China I'm a professor and lawyer. I'm not a victim of the system, but I decided to promote human rights and democracy. So that's the power of value. But for those dictators, Kim Jong-un, Xi Jinping, the benefit of being a dictator is too huge, and they don't so they choose to be evil, and they choose to be trying their best to be against democracy and this human rights freedom. That's one thing, and I don't believe that it's impossible for the North Korea to be a free and democratic country. I believe North Korean people, as well as all the people in the world, will enjoy liberal democracy. And think about China before 1976. It can be, people were actually put into prison or even executed because they listened to Voice of America and the sorting details, so those hostile radios. But China had been changed a lot after late 1970s, and a lot of North Korean people were enlightened by not listening to the freedom, the theory, liberal theories, but they got the chance to watch the operas, the films produced by South Korea. So in China, like 1970s, late 1970s, a lot of Chinese people were suddenly enlightened, by listening to the songs of one of them is from Taiwan, Teresa Deng. So that I think we should do something to put these songs, movies, and this stuff into North Korea.
Yeah, soft power. It does have great potential, but it requires, of course, access as well. And I've worked for a long time for a broadcaster, Deutsche Welle, Germany's foreign broadcasting service, that is blocked in China. And Deutsche Welle, like other broadcasters, encourages anyone who wants to follow what we do to use, and they're in areas where the signal is blocked, to use a VPN, virtual private networks. Now, I'm not even aware of whether that's possible in North Korea. I can imagine that the surveillance regime is so strong that would be very difficult. But the hurdles to getting to the people or to effecting change with the leaders themselves in North Korea or through China, which has its own reasons for wanting to keep North Korea the way it is, I suppose are limited, but yet we must engage, right? That it's not as if we cannot engage. And we've heard from our panel today different examples of how one can be active, even as an individual. And that's one of the things I love about this forum, this World Forum of the Cinema for Peace Foundation, is that they focus on the work of individuals, the power of an individual to affect change. Of course, you need the momentum and weight of governments at times to enforce things, but the individuals can make things change, at least in democracies that are still functioning, and there is potential there. And I think we've come away today with a sense of that. What happens inside North Korea and how to bring about change there, we don't know. Trump made a diplomatic effort, whatever we may think of him during his first time, naive as it may have been. We saw something happen there, but with what result? I mean, virtually nothing. And there is great concern, not just on the Korean Peninsula, but in the neighbors of North Korea, that there could be a conflagration that would just be horrible, and their capacity with nuclear weapons to reach countries much further afield is deeply disturbing. So we must continue to engage also for the human rights of the people who are living in North Korea, not to be forgotten. Anyway, I'm afraid we're going to have to wrap it up here. I hope we can continue these conversations. I look forward to continuing these conversations in other contexts, and I want to thank everyone for being with us here today, participating and listening. Thank you very much.